often we are on the same page. This is the time where you want to sit up, pay attention, and understand that you need to bet this game. And welcome to Pocket Protection in association with TDR, brought to you by Bet99 Sportsbook. Every game starts at Bet99.com. We are responsible gambling. I'm Ryan Doyle. That is Steve Budin. The last show before the Christmas holidays, and we've got a whack of gifts here today, Steve, to give out to everybody because, you know, everybody in the gambling space is somewhat naughty and somewhat nice, and that's kind of the world we live in.
Yeah, so Santa comes early this year, and all gamblers, they all want the same thing for Christmas: winners.
Winners. And let's talk about winners and losers in Thursday Night Football. Do you know what it takes to get booed by Jets fans? This is one of the worst franchises in the last few decades. Jets fans give almost anyone with a pulse a second and third chance. However, Zach Wilson is the worst number 2 pick ever made. Wilson should never play football in the National Football League again. 9 out of 18, 92 yards, an interception. On top of that, the Jets should fire whoever drafted this clown and refund season ticket holders that have to watch a Pop Warner quarterback play against the highest level of the game. It's embarrassing. How'd you see it last night?
Yeah, well, I mean, and I feel terrible because growing up, and by the way, I sense a little extra happiness coming from your end as a Buffalo Bills fan. You know, you gotta be a little bit of more of a straight shooter here, you know, because I can see it in your face. You enjoyed that a lot more than you're supposed to, but that's okay. That's okay. Look, that's okay. At the end of the day, you're still getting paid back for the Jim Kelly disappointing years when you just couldn't get that Super Bowl.
Very close,
you know. But that's okay. That's okay. Look, at the end of the day, you know, I feel bad because I was a Jet fan growing up. I joined Jets Anonymous in my 20s, so I'm a recovering Jet fan, which is great. But unfortunately, I passed it over to my son, who, you know, was so happy this year that the Jets looked like they were making a move, were going to make the playoffs. You know, and he called me, and I got tickets for the Jets-Dolphins game, great seats. You know, made sure to get the Jets side of the stadium for him. And like last night, he just texted me, maybe we could sell those seats, Dad. You know, like, so like, you know, yeah. So it's bad. You know, the Jets got dominated 19-3. And I would go further than just returning season ticket holders money. I think reparations are due. I mean, I can make a big case for that. And look, when it comes to the playoffs, the Jaguars' fate's in their own hands. This is a team that was 3-7 headed into Week 11. So we can talk about how bad things are going for the Jets, but let's just focus a little bit on the Jaguars. I mean, I can't say enough about the job Doug Peterson did rebuilding the confidence of this team. You know, they got a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence that's had a solid season. This is important for them. And, yeah, you're right. The Jet fans spent the whole game booing Zach Wilson until he finally got benched with 3 minutes left. And then did you hear the roar from the crowd? I mean, it's unbelievable. It's almost like they won the Super Bowl. I don't think I don't think he ever comes back as a Jet quarterback. I don't think he takes another snap. Maybe as a quarterback at all. I don't know. We'll have to see. Look, make no mistake about it. When the Jets were booing this guy, it was personal. A lot of the announcers were like, oh, they're booing the whole offense. They weren't booing the whole offense. They were just booing the quarterback. Look, and it's tough, like I said, because as Jet fans, they had plenty of hope. They were 7-4, you know, but that hope, like always, was crushed. And the Jets always do this to their fans. They like pull them in for a second, and then they've crushed them. You know, they've lost 4 straight. Their offense is in the toilet. Even their defense, which was impressive, we've been talking about it all season, they've taken a few steps backwards too. The only thing that's been solidified is that the Jets' future is going to be with White. And listen, they've got a future with him. He's a good quarterback. He's a tough quarterback, you know, and that's a lot better off than just some ceremonial playoff berth. And look, Trevor Lawrence can actually run the ball. That's something that we saw last night. He's 6'6". That's often overlooked. You don't think of a 6'6" quarterback as doing anything but standing tall in the pocket and hitting those passes. But, you know, a few times last night, he turned sacks into significant gains. He punished what seemed to be an undisciplined Jet defense. He had 7 runs. He had 51 yards total, including a 4th down touchdown sneak that gave the Jaguars the lead for good early in that second quarter. You know, over the past 7 games, he's rushed 29 times for 191 yards, 2 scores. I mean, this adds a whole new dimension. It makes the Jaguars, you know, offense dangerous. And And the Jets are finished. That's really all I have to say for them. The Jets slogan for the last 2 decades has been, "We'll get them next year."
Yeah, and I don't think that year will ever come, but keep hoping, Jets fans.
It's like that sign at the bar that says "free beer tomorrow." Yeah, it's always
tomorrow.
There. They never take it down. Yeah.
I want to talk to you about this because you're in Miami. You're familiar with the club scene down there. We've got a game where the Dolphins are playing on the weekend. It's a Christmas Day game. We're going to get to it. We're going to break it down in a little bit, but give us a little insight. What are games like in Miami maybe after the game is done or even the night before? Are these players hitting the clubs? Are they maybe in the strip clubs or is it home for family Christmas dinner? Give me what the vibe is like because you've got your finger on the pulse down there.
Yeah, and other than Tampa Bay, Miami is the strip club capital of the world. We've got a place here, Tootsie's, that's like a super club. I mean, literally, like it spans 2 blocks. You can get 1,000 people in there at one time. Enough friction in there to cause a complete riot, or fire at least. But I can tell you that. Not as much with the football players as with the basketball team. Like the Miami Heat are synonymous for being partiers, always, you know what I mean? And you can always catch a few of them, not going to mention any names, at the local strip clubs. They're on a first name basis at most of the clubs. They go to a club called Live in Miami at the Fontainebleau Hotel. They're frequenters there. The football players, they don't live in the city. They live like out west in a place called Southwest Ranches in Davie, which is kind of quiet, you know what I mean? So they don't really live that city life. Most of them are family guys, and very rarely. The other thing about the football players is that outside of the top guys, right, which happen to all be gentlemen, it's a big roster. You wouldn't really notice a football player other than by his size. Like, you don't look at I could show you a police lineup of the Miami Dolphins defense, and you probably couldn't pick them out. You know what I mean? Because you're used to seeing them with helmets on. Right. They're not the most popular players. You don't really notice them. Where with only 5 starters on an NBA team and no helmets on, you're used to seeing these guys' faces, and they're 7 feet tall, right? So when you see them outside, they're hovering over the crowd. You recognize their face, so it's a lot more easy to spot them, at these places. Not that I frequent the strip clubs, but if I did, it would be easier to pick them out. So I would say, when it comes to partying, Miami is a party town, second to only Las Vegas when it comes to being a sunny place for shady people. But I think that in the end, you'll be much more likely to catch an NBA player at a strip club than an NFL player.
I like how you've got your finger on this. You know what's going on down in Miami. Now, you mentioned the idea of shady people. Let's talk a little bit about Deshaun Watson. I feel dirty watching Deshaun Watson play football. Yeah. I fully understand that he is just one scumbag in a league with a history of allowing scumbags to play the game. There's something off-putting to me about giving this guy my viewing time or my betting money. He's got this vibe to him that he's got no concept he did anything wrong. His accusers bought tickets to see him. What's that got to be like, knowing that all of their eyes are on you, watching you play? For me, I hope it's painful for this scumbag because that's exactly what he deserves. Maybe I'm way off on this, Steve, but I've just got no time. When I see the Cleveland Browns on a betting sheet, I say to myself, I've got other interests.
Well, and the thing, it's like watching a Bill Cosby movie, right? Like you just, after 60 people, when one person, 2 people, accuse you of something, there's that reasonable doubt, right? In Deshaun Watson's case, 25, women came forward with allegations of sexual misconduct. Bill Cosby had 60 women that came against him, and listen, I have a hard time watching John Travolta after 50 male masseuses came out, and said that he did something weird. Like that's my guy, like this was Grease. This was, Saturday Night Fever and Welcome Back Kotter. And it's hard for me, to envision him, requesting a handyman special from a male masseuse. But in the end of the day, we wind up as human beings often separating the backstory from the body of work. But in the NFL, it's not just Deshaun Watson, right? It's a culture, of corruption. It's a culture, of lack of character when it comes to the NFL. And you have to ask yourself, and it's a good question, how much of a connection is there between doing steroids from an early age, jacking that testosterone level up beyond belief, and all of these allegations with, misconduct with women. More testosterone you got flowing through your body as a man, you know what I mean? You do crazy stuff. It makes you get into fights. It makes you be inappropriate with women. This is to me, this is a steroid issue. It's a culture issue. Look, we know from players, as it came out in all the concussion stories, how the NFL would just kind of allow pain pills to be dispersed in the locker room like they were, some type of good and plenty candy. You know what I mean? So there's a long history with drugs and the NFL, and they're normally performance enhancing drugs or pain medication, right? But how much of a connection is there between the testosterone levels being off the charts for these guys and them saying and acting in a way that you would normally see from someone making $20-30 million a year?
No, it's an absolutely phenomenal point, and I think it's something, not to use it as an excuse or a crutch or anything, but something that should be investigated and something that should be looked into. By the way, Steve Budin is the 5th sweat hog. Not a lot of people know that. Right after Boom Boom Washington, it's Budin, but it was a long time ago.
So much for anonymity, but that's fine. I'll take it. Probably the nicest thing anyone said to me. Certainly the nicest thing you've said about me on the show to date, so I'll take it.
It's very true. All right, we've got a lot of picks coming up. We've got one Saturday game. I'm going to tell you this. Often we are on the same page. This is the time where you want to sit up, pay attention, and understand that you need to bet this game. We'll tell you what that game is and a full look at the Sunday football calendar for Christmas Day. That's still to come as Pocket Protection continues after this.
As a world champion, when I walked out of the tunnel, I knew I prepared to win. I still do today. Every game starts at Bet99.net.
Welcome to Bet99.net, Canada's home for all your favorite free-to-play casino games, slots, live dealer tables, and progressive jackpots, including Mega Moolah. At Bet99.net, you could be a winner today.
And welcome back to Pocket Protection in association with TDR, brought to you by Bet99 Sportsbook. Every game starts at Bet99.com. We are responsible gambling. I'm Ryan Doyle, Steve Budin with you. You look at this, and I asked you, pick one game on the Saturday that stands out to you, because we got Christmas Eve, we got Christmas Day games, that could be a gift under the tree. And it's amazing that you put your finger right on the same game that I was looking at, and it is the Detroit Lions -3 at Carolina, the total here 44, Steve.
Man, we've been both watching this Detroit team all season long. We found a way to comment on them every single week, so we've been pretty much right on with them, had them in all their early covers, had them throughout their transition into a winning team. The Lions are now 6-1 straight up in their last 7 games, so they showed us they could cover games early in the season. They answered the bell and showed us they can actually win games too. And don't look now, but the Lions are talking about their first playoff appearance in 6 years. They're a half game out of a wild card slot heading into this game, so they'll be plenty motivated. And believe me, motivation is often the thing that separates one professional athlete from another. On the other side of the field, Carolina at 5-9, believe it or not, in that NFC South, they're good enough to still have a shot at the playoffs too. And as bad as they may seem, remember, they did beat Tampa Bay and they did beat New Orleans this season. But Bill Parcells, one of my heroes, said it best. He said, you are what your record says you are. And 5-9 is 5-9. Carolina lost a key game last week at home to a really bad Pittsburgh team. They failed to protect their quarterback, Sam Darnold. He got sacked 4 times. They rushed for just 21 yards. Uninspirational at best. Meanwhile, their defense gave up 156 yards on the ground, 3 running touchdowns. The bottom line, if the Lions can beat the Bears, the Giants, and the Jets on the road, they're certainly capable of beating Carolina. I'm with Uncle Mo here. Here comes Uncle Mo again. That's momentum, my friends. I'm going to bet Detroit.
Our favorite uncle making an appearance on the Christmas show. He's pulling up for some Christmas dinner. I like it. Yeah, I don't understand the line, and maybe you can help me break this down a little further. I don't understand why this line is 3. Detroit is the better team. They've got a more dominant offense. They've been in more games right to the end. They've got a massive hot streak that they're playing in. Even the loss that they've got on Thanksgiving Day against the Bills was a thriller right down to the wire. Carolina, they had the chance of a lifetime last week, as you mentioned, against Pittsburgh. Could not get that team out of first gear. Why is this line 3? This line should be 5 points to me. The idea that I only have to give 3 points is a gift on Christmas Day to me.
I just think that when you come to this time of the season, no one's ever used to uttering the words Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just think there's such a pushback to kind of bet Detroit on their way into the playoffs that people just aren't used to it. And I think it's affecting the line and it's affecting the action on the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a branding problem. It's just a branding problem. That's all it is. And I think that you look at it, name recognition, it's the Lions. They're obviously going to lose, or it's going to be close, or there's going to be... I don't think so at all. I think this is an absolute blowout of a game. Let's turn to the Sunday card. Miami -4 against Green Bay. The total here, 50 points.
Well, we said it a bunch of times. We both like Miami much better at home than on the road. They're a completely different team when they play here in South Florida. Green Bay's coming off a short week. They beat the Rams on Monday night. The Packers took care of business, relatively easy, but it's a quick turnaround for them, and that's going to affect them. They're going from sub-freezing weather into the heat here in Miami, and even though there's a little bit of a cold front right now, it's going to warm up quickly by this weekend. The Dolphins, they're going to try to snap a 3-game losing streak that's moved them out of that top spot in the AFC East and into that 7th and last playoff position in the conference. But it's important to note, and you know this because you're a Bills fan, all of those 3 setbacks while they came on the road, they were against good teams, 49ers, Chargers, and your Bills. And that last loss to the Bills, to me, as someone, if I was going to fancy myself a Dolphin fan, which I'm not, I'm a fan of my pocket, Buffalo didn't win till that final play of the game. So that was an impressive loss, if there is such a thing, for Miami. Miami rallied in the snow. You want to see something funny? Look at a fish in the snow. They rallied from a halftime deficit. They led 29-21 with under 10 minutes remaining before the Bills bounced back and won. Tua played, to me, his most productive game in weeks. The Dolphins' run game also made a comeback, and now they get to come home where they have a 5-1 record straight up, 4-2 against the spread. They're looking to finish strong with New York and New England, and both of those teams are on their heels. This is a must-win for Miami. I'm taking the fish minus the points.
Yeah, I am too. And here's a little. I wish we had like a little bell or an alarm that went off. I like the correlated parlay here. I think Miami does play well on offense, but I think they play well on defense here as well. I think they shut the Packers down, and the number of 50 is way too high for my liking. I know it's a warm weather game, but you talk about the weather. It's been kind of weird. We're getting this big storm throughout the east coast of the United States and Canada. I like the Dolphins here to cover the 4 points, but I also like the under. This seems weird to me that the total is this high. I would not have these two teams pegged at 50 points. So give me Miami and give me the under on this. Denver -2. Denver giving points to anybody, by the way. It's hard to say. It's hard to get it out of your mouth. Denver -2.5 at the Rams, 36.5 the total.
Yeah, and watching this game is like getting coal for Christmas. I'm sure they're going to be playing it at Guantanamo Bay and the D.C. Gulag. Look, the Broncos got one of their better efforts of the season last week from their backup quarterback. I'm not even going to say his name because it's not worth it. And that was in the face of J.J. Watt and the Cardinals' pass rush, which is pretty decent. Denver won for the first time since before Halloween. The Rams, they're in audition mode for Baker Mayfield, right? And the results have been kind of mixed. Really good after the first game, not so good last game. Look, the Raiders and the Packers, both of them, showed us different things with Baker Mayfield. Denver, they might have found something with Murray. He bowled for 130 yards rushing last week. Meanwhile, I like the under here. Even though the Broncos have been over the last 2 weeks, they're still under. 23-8 is their under record going back to last season. So I'm going to skip the game completely. I'm going under the posted total.
Yeah, I can't stay away. Maybe I'm the sucker, but I think a lot of people out there are going to get suckered into taking Denver off of a win. I don't like this team at all. I think when a team tells you all season what they are and then they have this one anomaly win, that doesn't mean that's all of a sudden the changed identity. They are who they – what's the old expression now? We are who they thought they were, Dennis Green back in the day. I think the Denver Broncos are one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Rams, listen, it's going to be rebuilding. They're going to go through, growing pains with Baker Mayfield if he becomes the guy. I like the Rams catching some points at home. I'm going to be on the Rams here, but, hopefully there's enough suckers out there that pump this line up to 3 so I can at least get that field goal and feel very comfortable with the Los Angeles Rams. I have no side on the no take on the total at 36.5, but I do trust Steve as his word because we've worked together for a while. So my pick is the LA Rams getting the 2.5. Tampa Bay -7.5 at Arizona, a team that is just in complete free fall, 40.5 the total.
Yeah, I mean, here's another lump of coal in your Christmas stocking. Hard to make a technical case either way. Certainly not for the Bucs. They haven't covered in their last 11 games in North America. Their only cover was in mid-September in Munich. Maybe they should move their stadium there. Meanwhile, the Cardinals have won just once in their last 13 games at home. Ryan, this game is not about who's better. It's about who's worse. With two bad teams, as a rule, you always take the points. So I'm going to grab the points here with the Cardinals.
I'm going to go what you did on the last game because I watched that Tampa Bay Cincinnati game with the comeback. It was like the old Nintendo controller where you had to hit the box or blow into the cartridge. It was like the game was on pause for Tampa. They just didn't do anything. It was like fumbles and interceptions. And the number never moved from 17. They scored 17 points, and it was like the game's done. And, well, it wasn't. Cincinnati had other things to say about that. I like the under here. I don't think these teams are capable of scoring touchdowns. You're going to get a lot of field goals. The kickers are going to get some work. But 40.5 to me is too high. I think this game lands somewhere in the, small 30s, let's say, 32, 33 points. So I think you're getting a bit of a gift on Christmas Day when it comes to the 40.5, taking the under. So that's where I'm at. You're going to catch the points here with the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, I'm going to catch the points. It's the end of an era. It's sad, you know what I mean? And as bettors, we all made so much money on Brady over the decades. And he was such a great guy, to play, and cover the spread out, and but we can't take all of that into every game with us. If we do, we wind up giving back way too much of that money that we were lucky enough to make. So I'm going with the dog here.
All right, we will be back next week. We're going to talk college football bowls. We'll talk about NFL playoffs, what that's going to look like. Of course, we'll have all your picks. The NFL doesn't stop just because you might not be at work. In fact, it intensifies and gets better for bettors, and that's what we are here for. Steve Budin, have a great Christmas, a great holiday. We appreciate it.
Merry Christmas, my man.
Pocket protection in association with TDR, brought to you by Bet99 Sportsbook. Every game starts at Bet99.com. We are responsible gambling.